Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Christina Linjo. Christina, how you doing today?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you?
Good, because we're about to... Let me take a deep breath before we start this conversation. We're going to talk about immigration, which it feels like that's all reporters talk about anymore is immigration. But that's given the very charged environment that we live in nationally and now at the state level. So earlier this week, you attended a press conference with the PA Welcoming Caucus. Does anyone else get caught up on that word? And it sounds like, although you haven't heard much about them in, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, given where we are at with the new Trump administration, they're definitely taking center stage and they have some new and old bills to talk about. So tell us more about what they think we can do in Pennsylvania to protect immigrants, as they say.
Yeah, so their big goal is, again, to protect immigrants. And in this case, it kind of entails taking a stance against the federal government and kind of this oppositional way. But the one big initiative that they spoke about was creating an office for new Pennsylvanians, which would provide legal services and connect people with different organizations and services they might require as they, come to the state to live, and also, do advocacy and just try to make it a more welcoming, hence the Welcoming Caucus, a more welcoming environment for immigrants. There's another bill that they talked about that has been floated before, and it's never made it very far, but it is to allow immigrants who are not citizens to get driver's licenses or other forms of identification. So there's a lot behind this. One is the idea that if people have driver's licenses, if they've been, gone through all of the process of getting a driver's license, you're increasing safety on the roads because people are driving either way, right? So requiring that makes it more licensed and more insured drivers. So that's helpful. Secondly, a lot of immigrants are working and they are paying taxes. So having identification is really helpful for them to be able to do the things that they need to do to just function in society. So having the opportunity to get a driver's license is really great. On the other hand, we do have very strong opposition to that coming from some of the Republicans in the state legislature. There's a bill currently in the House that proposes taking a constitutional amendment to the ballot, to the voters, to ban giving non-citizens driver's licenses. So it's currently not legal anyway, but this bill would make it so if voters, accepted this ballot initiative, that it would be constitutionally banned and prohibited from that ever happening. So the Welcoming Caucus is proposing an entirely oppositional to that, saying this is what we should do. There's another bill that's kind of mirroring DACA at the federal level that would help with getting in-state tuition for students who have gone to Pennsylvania schools growing up, saying, we've already made this investment in our students. They're already graduating from Pennsylvania schools. They should be allowed to continue that education at the college level.
It's interesting that you bring up the constitutional amendment because I think what a lot of people don't understand about those is I kind of see them as both sides throwing up their hands and saying, we're not going to decide, so let's let the voters decide, which at the core of it is what state government is supposed to be doing, is to be hearing our voices and saying, all right, this is what my district wants this, and, someone else's district wants this. What does the majority want? And in a divided legislature like ours, obviously that's really hard to do. And I think you're seeing more constitutional amendments come up as a compromise of sorts. What I don't like about them is that they take so long to actually get to the voters. It's at minimum a 2-year process because you have to do it in each consecutive legislative session, which means our sessions are 2 years. So theoretically, if they passed one this year, they would have to wait until 2027 to try to pass it again and then go through. Then there's all these other steps in between, which I won't get into. But this is something they proposed for voter ID. There's been other ones that aren't as high profile, with the exception of legal reform for child victims of sexual assault, perpetuated mostly by an investigation into the Catholic diocese in Pennsylvania. But that's getting off topic. Basically, what I want to say is that it's very interesting that when it comes to this issue, and what I would say is probably the most controversial of these bills, as far as my experience covering the legislature has been, is that this is one they don't see a very strong resolution on. And so they're asking voters. And, I'm curious, you've been covering the House specifically for several months now, and the Democrats have a 1-seat majority. So what is your sense of where these bills are going to go?
Honestly, I don't think that they have a great shot. The Office of New Pennsylvanians, I haven't seen the actual language of what they're proposing there yet. That could have a chance. But the driver's license bill didn't make it out at the Transportation Committee last time. And Judy Schwenk has been pushing the Pennsylvania Dream Act, for several years, and it hasn't gotten traction. I do think that perhaps with the current climate, there might be a better chance, because I think constituents are reacting very strongly to the federal government's immigration policies and choices. So there is a chance that they will put pressure on their senators and their representatives to maybe do more to protect immigrants. But even if they do, there's still, if the state's going to take a stance against what's happening at the federal level, there's still going to be friction. For example, New York does have a law allowing non-citizens to get driver's licenses, and they've been sued by Attorney General Pam Bondi. So, it's going to be a risk on legislators' part, even if that is what the constituency wants, because that's, saying that the people voted for it isn't going to change the fact that the people also voted for a federal administration that's quite hard on immigration.